Hello and welcome. This video is going to be about dawn chorus on the smallholding. But before I go any further, we see Sharon and I have got some help today. We've got Satara, our dog, a St Bernard, and we've got Taffy, a friend's dog, a black lab, who's staying with us for a few days. Taffy is Satara's boyfriend, but Satara is spayed and Taffy is castrated, so like responsible dog owners, we won't be having any small Sataras or mini Taffys anytime soon. Dawn chorus is a fantastic experience if you can get outside and enjoy it. I'd recommend it, but I know it's not for everybody and not everybody's able to do it, so we're going to try and bring some of that to yourselves. We're going to be recording a couple of dawn choruses in two different areas on the smallholding and try and bring them together into one video. Sharon and I are quite tuned into bird songs and calls, so we can normally, even in the full swing of a dawn chorus, we can normally pick out individual species and say whether that's a robin or a blackbird or a chaffinch or a wren or a whitethroat and so on. But I know not everybody can do that, not everybody's out amongst the birds all the time. So what we're going to try and do is to try and capture a dawn chorus, but we're also going to get the moments before it's at its peak and after its peak. So before it's when birds are waking up, and after it's when birds realise they've got other responsibilities still. They've got to feed themselves, they might have young in the nest, they've got to go and feed them. So before and after the peak of a dawn chorus, there's not so many birds singing, so you can quite often pick out individuals. And if we can do that, we shall try and do that and highlight that in the actual video when we put that together. So it just leaves me really to put in this, what I call an anchor. It's where I just hit this into the ground quite within about a foot, 2 foot. And what it will do, it will allow me to tie the camera and tripod that I bring back over this evening. That's going to be recording the dawn chorus in the morning. So should I get a rather inquisitive red or roe deer or a badger, hopefully in the morning the tripod and camera will still be in the position that I actually left it. It only remains for me now to put in this anchor, unless, Sharon, you think I've missed anything out.
No, that's absolutely fine. If you just mention what time you're going to be doing it.
The time I'm going to be doing it is I'm going to be doing 2 times. One's going to be 4:45 through to around about 6 o'clock, and the other one's going to be 4:30 to round about 5:45. They'll normally, in the middle there, they'll be normally the peak times of a dawn chorus. So hopefully we'll get a bit before and a bit after the peak, as well as the full ensemble of a wonderful bird song of a dawn chorus. Happy? Or have I got anything else?
No, that's absolutely fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah, that's fine.
Fantastic. The boss says that's okay, so we'll catch up later. I'm back over on the smallholding with the camera and tripod. I've tied it to the anchor, and the camera is all set to record from 4:30 tomorrow morning for about an hour and 20 minutes. The 2 video recordings, one was made in the south, from the southwest corner of Dampveld on Larter Oasis, pointing towards north, and the other was actually done in the south of Dampveld, pointing east. We've done 2 dawn chorus videos. One is just a full-blown dawn chorus ensemble, uninterrupted. Secondly, the second one is a dawn chorus, but it has some individual bird song identification help in there. Hopefully you'll find that of use. We've tried to incorporate both recordings of both dawn choruses to get the best isolated recordings of individual birds where we could. The reason why we split it into 2 videos is trying to put them together, one, it became uncomfortably too long, really, and secondly, it interrupted the full flow of a dawn chorus, and so we didn't want to spoil the full ensemble, but we did put do a bird ID one as a separate video. This is by no means an official tutorial, not by a long chalk. The information we are passing here is information that Sharon and I have been taught, have learnt, have experienced over the years. When we got together and got married for 3+ decades ago and more, we knew we had a passion, and we shared an interest in wildlife. And I find that when you share a passion, or you have a passion in something, an interest in something, no matter if it's a hobby, an interest of playing golf or collecting stamps or whatever it may be, information that you glean tends to stick, and that's what's happened to Sharon and I over the years. So in this video, we're just parting some of the information that we've picked up on. The information we're giving is, again, by no means definitive. We've said this many times before, and I guess we'll say it many times again. Birds, wildlife, do not write the books we read. Other things will happen that you won't expect, and always expect the unexpected with wildlife. Say it's not written in stone whatsoever. In cold snaps, for instance, birds will travel great distances. A kingfisher might go to the coast. You normally see it on a river close by. In the winter, in very cold snaps, it will go to the coast maybe where it's 1 degree or 2 degrees less, and it might have an opportunity where some water is unfrozen for a period of time, and it's got access to maybe a hunting ground. Swifts, if you get a cold snap in the UK, they can fly up to 1,000 miles away, go and collect maybe about 1,000 insects and store them into a ball in their mouth, and then they'll fly back. This doesn't take 5 minutes. So the young in the nest will go into what they call a semi-torpor, which is a good deep sleep, and so they don't waste their energy. And when the parents come back to feed them, then it's business as usual, and the youngsters will wake up. Likewise, you might suddenly see in the middle of winter birds on your bird table you don't normally expect. And one bird that will quite often visit bird tables now in winter in very cold spells is the reed bunting, and you'd expect to see them in waterways and in reed beds. So always expect the unexpected. You never know what's going to turn up when it comes to wildlife, and it's a bit like their calls and songs. We're still learning different calls from different birds. Birds have something called a syrinx. Is where the trachea forks into the lungs, and it has muscles on both sides of the syrinx, which means they can produce 2 notes at the same time. They can also produce 2 melodies at the same time. This makes some of their songs quite complex, but they're not complex to learn. That makes it actually easier to learn, because it sounds you wouldn't normally hear anywhere else. Birds are also great mimics, not just parrots and minor birds, but other birds too, birds in this country. Blackbirds, song thrushes, great mimics, and of course the starling part of the minor family. And in fact, I think many moons ago, a few decades ago, a football match was actually interrupted and halted for a while because a starling was taking off the referee's whistle to a tee, and it confused the referee and the players. So I guess they had to wait until that was chased out of the stands. So birds are great mimics, not just of other birds, which they are, and that sometimes can be confusing, but also of man-made sounds too. We have produced some clean or cleanish individual bird song recordings to try and help you identify some of the birds in the dawn chorus, where maybe 1 or 2 other birds will overlap them, but where you should be able to pick them out without any problems. The recordings, individual recordings, were made here at Larter Oasis. Well, the majority of them were. 1 or 2 were made maybe elsewhere, but the majority of them were actually all made here. We've included mostly just the resident species because they're here all year round, and some will sing, but all will call all year round. But we have also included 1 or 2 migrants and 1 or 2 of the easier migrants. I also want to make an apology, if you like, with some of the bird pictures and videos, that the quality of them that I've taken and put alongside some of the individual bird recordings. They were made by aging wildlife CCTV cameras here on the Smallholding. I need to upgrade them at some point whenever I can maybe get some money together. But the quality is enough to identify them, but it's not the best. We hope you enjoyed this this video and the insight, this little insight into bird song here in the UK, and we hope it encourages you to maybe find out more. And if you do, I can promise you this: you will not be disappointed. The robin song is very wistful. It has a few what I call fluty notes in there, but mostly wistful. And it'll sing from very early on in the morning through till quite late at night. But it is a distinctive song, and it will sing throughout the year. And it has two different songs, one for the spring and the summer, and then it goes into a different kind of song for the autumn. Take a listen to this one, which is the spring song. So it's very, very wistful. That's the robin. If we move on to the thrushes, we have 5 thrushes in the UK that will spend time with us. We have 3 residents, the blackbird, the song thrush and the mistle thrush, and we have 2 visitors from Scandinavia and the Faroe Islands in winter, and Iceland. That's the redwings and the fieldfares. But for the song ID, because normally in winter all you're going to hear is redwing and fieldfares, you're going to hear their calls, but maybe we can do that another time. But the songs from our resident thrushes, the blackbird, the song thrush and the mistle thrush, can be what I would like them to maybe somebody learning lines for a play or for a movie. They have different ways of trying to learn their lines. I put a jacket on, it's got a little bit chilly. The wind's picked up as well. Back to the thrushes. The blackbird, when it learns its lines, it learns them in a bit of a more of a longer phrase than maybe the song thrush or the mistle thrush. It will say, for instance, something like on the lines of, "To be or not to be, that is the question." A short break. "Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer." Short break. The other thing with blackbird, and it's quite diagnostic, it sometimes, quite often, chuckles at the end of a phrase. So, for instance, it could say, "To be or not to be, that is the question, hee hee." That's supposed to be a chuckle. That's not what it actually sounds like, but you get the message. It's a little chuckle at the end of its song, and that is diagnostic, and you'll pick up on that. Listen to the blackbird. The song thrush, on the other hand, is a little bit different to the blackbird. It will say shorter phrases and it will repeat them. So, for instance, it could say, "To be, to be, to be," or "not to be, or not to be, or not to be." That is a question, that is a question, that is a question. So it's saying shorter phrases and repeating them as if trying to commit them to memory by just saying them over and over again. That's the song thrush. Take a listen. Well, there you have it. That's the song thrush. Different to the blackbird, though. All the thrushes here, they do sound quite fluty, but the way they deliver their fluty songs are different. The mistle thrush, also known as the stormcock, because it will quite often sing before a storm, or when it sees maybe heavy dark rain clouds, but it is quite haunting, its song. Like the other 2 thrushes, it's very fluty, but again, unlike I guess to the blackbird, its phrases will be shorter, and then it will have a short break, not a long break as the blackbird, but a shorter break. So, for instance, it could say, "To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler," and so on. So it'll say a short phrase, short break, and then move on. But it is very fluty, it is quite haunting. Take a listen to the missel thrush. Missel thrushes also have quite a distinct alarm call. I don't know if anybody, if you're old like me, you're probably a bit or maturing. You probably remember going to a football ground. I don't think they're allowed anymore, but used to have football rattles. They were bits of wood, and you'd fling around with a wooden handle, and they would make quite a rattling sound. Quite probably responsible for a lot of broken teeth at the football ground. But that rattle, that's very, very distinct, and that sounds a bit like a missel thrush when that's giving its warning call, just like this. So there you have it, that's the three thrushes. A blackbird will sing a longer phrase and then have a longer break. The song thrush will repeat short phrases very, very quickly, has a little break and then repeat another set of phrases. And the missel thrush will say a piece, a phrase, and then has a short break, not as long as a blackbird, and then it will say another piece, short break, then another piece. So again, they're all quite distinctive, they're all quite different songs. The wren, it gives a powerful performance. It's very, very strident, it's very, very loud. Once you've actually heard it, you will not forget it, I can promise you that. It's like a rapid machine gun or a rapid gunfire, and it can, in a single blast, it can give out over 100 notes. So it's a very big performer, a powerful performer for such a little bird. And so once you've heard it, you won't forget it. Listen to this. There you have it, that's the wren. Very strident, very loud. The song is rapid, unforgettable. The wood pigeon, again, a lot of people tend to overlook a wood pigeon, but they're quite a beautiful bird. Again, they have a song. Their song is quite often likened to, they have many different versions, but the one I was taught round about 96, 97 was take two coos, Taffy, take two coos, Taffy, that kind of thing. So take a listen. Now, a willow warbler, another migrant, one of the first to get here after the chiffchaff. Again, it's another little warbler. It looks very, very similar to a chiffchaff. In fact, to the naked eye, it's very difficult to tell them apart. But even though they look very similar, their songs are totally different. And you'll quite often find that where birds look very similar, their songs are different. So the willow warbler, its song sounds as if it's blowing away on the wind. It starts strong, but then becomes weak. It's that kind of thing. Again, you'll judge whether that's a good impression or not. Listen to the willow warbler. That's a willow warbler. Again, it's very similar to the chiffchaff to look at, but the song is totally different. Chaffinch, again, it's a bit like it's likened to a bowler, a bowler delivering a ball. So it's a fast piece as it's running up to the stumps, and then it's releasing the ball, one sort of kind of chirp at the end, a long chirp at the end. Listen to the chaffinch. Okay, and if the pitch of the chaffinch is typical of a finch, okay, they have a similar kind of, different songs, but a similar kind of pitch. So that's the chaffinch. You can liken that to, if you like, a bowler delivering the cricket ball on a pitch on a Sunday afternoon. Though they do play cricket at other times. Greenfinch is one of those onomatopoeia birds. It sounds as if it's saying its name, or the first part of its name. The greenfinch sounds a bit like green, green. Again, not very good impersonation, but it is trying to say green. Or that's what it sounds like to me, and that's how I can remember it. But how everybody remember their own bird songs is up to the individual. There's no right or wrong way about this whatsoever. But take a listen to the greenfinch. If you see what I mean, it's the same kind of pitch as a chaffinch, but again, it's a different kind of song altogether. The great tit, another onomatopoeia bird. It sounds of it saying great tit, great tit, great tit, great tit when it's singing. But some people liken it to teacher, teacher, teacher. As I've said, however you remember it, there's no right or wrong way. If it works for you, it works for you. That's good. So that's what it sounds like, but it's very, very strident. That's the thing to remember. It's very strident. Listen to the great tit. There you have it, that's a great tit. There is another bird that sounds similar, that's the coal tit. Again, the coal tit will be saying, it sounds similar, it sounds of it saying great tit, or coal tit, but it will be a thinner, it won't be so strident, it'll be a lot thinner. And people quite often liken it to a great tit. If you imagine it saying great tit, that's been operated by a foot pump. Whereas the coal tit, when that's saying cool tit in a similar kind of fashion, a similar kind of way, that's been likened to, if you like, being operated by a hand pump, a bicycle pump. So the great tit is the foot pump and the coal tit is the hand pump. That's the way to remember it. And it does sound, the coal tit's thinner, the great tit very strident, very loud. The blue tit is, in my opinion, quite a hard bird to describe song-wise. It's a beautiful bird. It's, if you look at it, it's almost exotic, but its song is very difficult to describe. So it's a thin kind of trill or seep at the beginning, followed by some whistles or a few notes, a melody of notes after the trill. So there you have a blue tit. Not what I call enthusiastic or strident singer, but one that's quite recognisable. especially in your garden. It's going to be around your garden, it's going to be around your feeders, and this time of year they'll still be singing, though a lot of what they'll be doing now is contact calls to their young. In fact, you can hear me now. Right behind me there is a blue-tipped contact calling now its young. Now I said that, they actually moved off to my left. So the blue tit is a high-pitched, thin seep at the beginning, or I would class as a seep, followed by a rapid trill of notes afterwards. That's about the best I can actually describe it. It's not the easiest bird to describe song-wise, as I've mentioned. Your Dunnock is has a complicated sex life, does Dunnocks. While one is going off having an affair, the other one's doing exactly the same thing. And when they come back, the male knows. So he will actually peck at the cloaca of the female, and that'll stimulate her to release maybe any sperm from the one that she's been having an affair with. A cloaca being the opening of a bird. The birds only have one opening. They don't have two like a lot of like the mammal species. Like us, they have just the one. They do everything out of the one. So the Dunnocks, they are not very faithful to each other whatsoever, but that's not what's important here. That's not who's here to judge. Their song is very squeaky. I liken it to a little bit of a squeaky gate. And listen to this, you see what I mean. So that's your Dunnock, quite squeaky, but it is quite loud. When you hear it, it is quite loud, and it's easy to overlook if you hear another bird singing. But that's your Dunnock. The bullfinch is a beautiful, beautiful looking bird. The colours are vibrant, they're fantastic to look at. But the song is, for me, somewhat disappoints. It's quite weak, but it is the easiest one for us humans, I guess, to actually mimic. It's just like some whistles. Some would call it a warble of whistles, but to me it's just a few whistles. That kind of thing. Listen to it now. That's the bullfinch. So just whistles, but it's a beautiful looking bird, and if those whistles, if that's what it's going to do and it works for it, then I'm happy. Why would I not be happy for the bullfinch? The bullfinch, there you have it, a subtle song, whistles, easy to replicate yourself. Have a go at it. The goldcrest is our smallest bird. It's a beautiful looking bird. The goldcrest along with the firecrest. The firecrest, I'm not going to describe it as song or anything, but it's a bit like the goldcrest, except it has a fiery crest at the top rather than a yellow. It's more golden, it's more reddy, hence the firecrest. But the goldcrest song is thin seeps. That's not very good. Very, very difficult to hear for some humans. Some humans can't hear it at all, but they are very thin seeps. Listen to the goldcrest. Well, that's the goldcrest, high-pitched thin seeps. The contact calls are very, very similar. And it's the contact calls are really aiming to keep their small flock together. The other migrant you'll be able to pick out sometimes, especially if you're walking down the country lane in the hedgerows or in parkland, that would be the whitethroat. It's very, very scratchy. And you can get, here we get good years and bad years. Sometimes we'll get one, sometimes we'll get two or three. This year's been a good year. But their song is scratchy, but when they start, they will go all day long. Take a listen to the whitethroat. That's a whitethroat, quite scratchy, very different to all the birds that you've heard so far. Most people probably would have heard a chiff-chaff even if they don't know it, and that's the bird that sounds chiff-chaff, 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 chiff-chaff from probably any time from the end of March all the way through to the end of summer. It's a migrant, though a lot of their numbers do spend a lot of their time as the climate's warming up a little bit down on towards the south of England and also across the waters into France and around the Mediterranean. But a lot of them still come from, I believe, still come from Africa as well. But their Latin name is Phylloscopus colubiter. Phylloscopus means leaf warbler, and the colubiter is actually money changer or money counter. And if you listen to the chiff-chaff, chiff-chaff, chiff-chaff of a chiff-chaff, it sounds as it's counting out money. And again, it's one of those onomatopoeia birds. Listen to the chiff-chaff. The dawn choruses were made here at Larter Oasis, a 10-acre small patch of land surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of acres of monoculture arable land. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is the dawn choruses you're about to hear, as wonderful as they are, and they were made by a relatively small number of birds in comparisons to, say, I don't know, a parkland or a nature reserve or a woodland of several hundred acres. During the breeding season, the birds are eager to announce their territorial hold as soon as day begins. Their song will go on intensely in the morning, and their songs will go on all day, but not quite as intense as in the morning. The individuals will sing at different times during the day, so they won't be all singing at once. In the morning, it's a mixture. It's many virtuoso performances that amalgamate into a magical, beautiful bird song. It's like having a choir with no conductor, no choir master or no choir mistress. It's just the birds on their own, not being conducted. They're just performing, and they're just trying to say, this is my patch, I'm going to be raising my family here, keep away. In my opinion, the words amazing and awesome are used out of context a great deal. They should be used to describe something astonishing, but I don't quite get that sometimes. Whereas I would call a dawn chorus amazing, I would call a dawn chorus awesome. It's one of nature's fantastic events, freely given, not knowingly given, but given all the same, and one that deserves a standing ovation. Put your hands together, please, for the songbirds, the passerines of Larter Oasis. Thank you. Thank you for watching. We hope you've enjoyed this video of nature's remarkable performance. What makes it even more remarkable for us is for some birds it's their first performance, it's their first breeding season, and fortunately for some it's going to be their last, but that makes us even more appreciative of the dawn chorus and of the effort that these birds put in. Take care, bye for now.